Oh, this is a bit weird. I have a Reddit post open right now giving me instructions on how to record a video on this thing because, this is how little I use this computer. Okay, open QuickTime Player, file, new movie recording. I should know how to do this, but I don't. Maybe I have the hang of it, but I'm literally kind of sweating a little bit thinking about talking into a camera. Like when I was doing video therapy, online therapy, because where I work has this free resource where you can talk to people and express yourself and spill your feelings and stuff. But see, it's all online and you have to do this thing. I don't like to look at myself because right now I can see my face on the screen. This isn't something I enjoy doing. I don't like it. I don't like to look at myself like this. I don't even like to hear the sound of my own voice. I might have to just hide it. But see, now the video's in the background. It's I can't see if I'm in frame. Am I in frame? I'm just gonna assume that I am. I don't think I want to waste too much time fucking talking about that. I'm out of breath. I feel short of breath. This is weird. I wish that in this scenario right now, I wish that I sounded in my own head the way I sound when I'm talking to friends and stuff. When you're talking with your friends, when I'm talking to Sam, I'm not thinking about how I sound. In this case, all I can hear is the sound of my own voice. And I'm hyperfixated on it. I honestly feel like I'm talking with an accent that I don't have. This does not sound like me right now. I mean, I guess it does a little bit, but this is freaky. I don't even know if I should do an introduction because whether or not you are already subscribed to my channel or anything like that, if you came here or you found my channel through my various daily vlogs that I used to do, little short blips of my life that I used to share on here. I used to play video games on this channel. Just hello, whoever you are. Anyway, I recently kind of back when I was on TikTok, I kind of started to realize that people were so there was a group of people that were just so candid on TikTok, and you kind of were offered a look into their lives. There was no editing going on, there was nothing being staged, there was nothing like that. It was no script. It all just felt very real. And sorry, I'm very fidgety. And I really gravitated toward that type of content for some reason. This was a few years ago. I really wanted to start gravitating towards this type of realness that people displayed online. This sort of what do you call that? Just this bare bones, no filter type of stuff. Well, since I got off TikTok, this was a few years ago. Since I got off TikTok, I started watching YouTube more. I've always watched YouTube, for years and years and years. YouTube has, been bookmarked in my browser. I've always had the YouTube app. I first started watching Big Brother on YouTube. I mean, I would spend hours a day watching Big Brother on YouTube. I was obsessed with it. Now this new kind of content, is finding its way into my algorithm, and I'm really grateful for it. There's this person I'm subscribed to right now, and she's just spilling it all on her on her channel, and it's kind of been really really inspiring for me too. I'm sure it's inspiring for a lot of other people, but um, this is kind of like what I wanted to do. Somehow I just felt that it was right for me to start recording something. I wanted to start speaking again. I don't know why, but I feel that maybe I have something to say, but I don't know. My voice sounds really boring. I sound really tired, but actually I'm just scared. I just feel really scared, and I feel really naked right now. Whenever I was doing video therapy like this, I just felt so naked, and the silence would just ring in my ears. The silence would just, I could almost just curl up and die. Like, the silence during one of my sessions was just so weird that I honestly just started like talking about random shit. Like, it was supposed to be a therapy session, and this person who arguably probably wasn't a very good fit for me, you get put with whoever sometimes, and then, they're not a good fit, but you don't want to waste their time. And I just started talking about random shit, like, you know, we had, it's just weird. I remember telling her that, oh, we found a dead squirrel in our crawl space, and I poured wood chips on it and put a cinder block on top of it. And she was like, oh, okay. I remember telling her that. It just felt really weird. But maybe it was a rabbit. I don't know if it was a squirrel. Maybe it was a chipmunk. But I recently I feel this like something like kind of kindling inside me, like this kind of like I'm kind of drawn now towards this like vulnerability, I guess is the word that maybe I was looking for earlier. Like, I've been reading some fiction that I picked up when I was a teenager. Um, and I can talk about, some of my favorite books in maybe another video, but I was picking up some fiction that I read when I was a teenager, and it's a collection of short stories by Miranda July. And something about the way that she writes is like, it comes across like very vulnerable. It comes across like, when I read what she's writing, like, it does feel like she's reaching into me and pulling out some of my own experiences, I guess. Um, and some of it is very literal. Like, there is a story. Of course, some of it is emotional, but some of it is literal. Like, this is like how connected I feel to her writing. Like, in one passage, she talks about a love affair that she writes, is, she calls it her dark shape. And she's explaining about this love affair that she had with this dark shape. And in one part, she's explaining about how her and the dark shape had sex, and how fulfilling it was, and basically just her experiences that she had with it. Anyway, she goes on to say that the dark shape fully entered her body, and down to the part where she says, I'll just kind of fast forward. she says that, I wish I had the book in front of me, but I don't. Maybe I can Google it. Based on the provided search results, there is no mention of a dark shape in relation to a Miranda July appendectomy scar. Well, I wasn't literally talking about Miranda July's appendectomy scar. This is my problem. This is part of my problem because, like, I'd be making connections with shit that don't. Why would anyone post this quote on Goodreads? Do you know what I mean? You know how you can go on Goodreads and look for quotes and stuff? If I just put this in quotes, okay. Did I hallucinate this? Sometimes I do think about that. While the specific phrase appendectomy scar is not commonly cited as a central element of this specific story. ... Okay, I found it was published in the Paris Review in 2003. Of course, I can't find the full text right now. It doesn't matter. I can pretty much tell you what it said. I just wanted to read it. Anyway, because now I just gave it all away pretty much without even telling you what it was I was talking about. But I was trying to say that she talks about how the dark shape entered her. It entered her and then fell out of her body and fell back in her body. And anyway, she basically says that her dark shape healed her appendectomy scar. Why did this resonate with me? Well, I know nothing about the inspiration of this story that Miranda July wrote. I have no idea what she's talking about. But for some reason, I've always felt that maybe this is just really weird of me, but whenever I read something, like, arguably, like, any fiction that anyone writes comes from somewhere, right? And I'm thinking, my mind goes, oh, it's autobiographical. I know that's not true for everything, but, I think that content from the stories that we tell has to come from somewhere. So, it's very easy for me to read that line. And even though this is a fictional character that we're talking about, it's very easy for me to envision a real person with a real appendectomy scar, which is why it's easy for me to see myself as that person, because I have an appendectomy scar, because I had appendicitis when I was 19 years old and I was hospitalized for a period of time. And so when I read that, I guess the reason why it feels so vulnerable is because it's easy for me to see myself as one of her characters, and just the way, I don't know. I guess because I'm making that connection that it's potentially autobiographical, that I'm like, okay, this is like a tell-all. This is like her confessing something. And then, I think about how much I have wanted to write, like, in the past and stuff. And I do enjoy writing, and I enjoyed writing when I was in college. I wrote, a potentially meaningful piece of work that I shared with the internet before, but nothing ever happened. And part of the reason why I shared it is because, my family, my sister mostly, my sister and I have been looking for my father. When I wrote the piece that I'm talking about, I originally titled it, I'm gonna see if I can find it. For some reason, I have a Pages document on my computer where I've been writing, and I've been writing for a while. I wonder if I can tell when this was started. Created May 31st, 2023. This, I don't know when I did this or how long this has been here, but I posted this on TikTok, hoping that somebody would read it. I'm going to paste it into my document now. Copying and pasting outside this file has been disabled. Bitch, I created this file. I can destroy it. Paste. Okay, so I can't do that. I might just have to screenshot it. Capture. Capture, please. Sleeping. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. I do know how to screenshot on a Mac. If you ever need to screenshot or be told or taught how to screenshot on a Mac, I'm your guy. But I don't know how to record videos without looking at a tutorial. So, anyway, what was I talking about? Okay, so I did start writing this, and this is kind of going into this vulnerability topic again, but I wrote this and posted it online hoping that somebody would read it. I want to say I posted on Craigslist. Basically, the long story short is my father somehow or another ended up in Arizona, which at the time we were in Michigan because that's where we're from. He ended up in Arizona, and his pictures came up online, which we don't know how he got there or exactly when. But when I first wrote this document, I titled it "My Father Left Us Sometime in 2014." So I don't know if it was 2013 or 2014. I don't remember exactly the date or whatever, but his pictures came up on a mugshot database, and he was arrested for disorderly conduct. And so at that time, we kind of felt some relief, I guess, because maybe we thought he had died. I didn't think he had died, but I remember searching obituaries or something with his name and stuff like that, but nothing ever came up. Anyway, I started writing this piece because in college, I was taking an English class. It was a required course, but we were reading a thing, and it said, the prompt was a significant moment in your life or something like that, or write. It was a creative piece, a creative prompt, right? And it was write a significant moment in your life, and the example piece given was oh, this time at a baseball game I hit a home run for the team and everyone cheered and I was the MVP. And I'm not saying that that's not significant. I'm just it was kind of cheesy, I guess. I don't know. Celebrate your home run. That's great. Well, me being the depressed and ex-emo person that I am, I was okay, I'm going to write about you want a significant event in my life? I'm going to write about a significant event, bitch. And so I wrote about, immediately I kind of knew. Actually, there were two that came to me, and maybe I can talk about this other one in another video. The first one, which I'm not going to talk about today, was when I was lost. I basically got lost one time. And I did write about it very briefly when I had a Facebook account. I very briefly posted a blurb about it. About the time, and what it was about the time I got lost outside of the Sydney Opera House. And I was lost for I don't know how long, but like I said, maybe we can talk about that another time. This event that I wrote about was the last conversation that I had with my father, which it's true that this is the last conversation. This is the last time I ever spoke to him. I haven't spoken to him since. I haven't received any phone calls, which why would I receive phone calls? Like, he doesn't know my phone number. And I actually write about this in the story. But it's 2 pages double space. It was like the minimum requirements. But I was like, okay, they want an event. This is my event. And this was kind of like the start of my vulnerability. I knew when I wrote this that I was like, I want to expand on it and I want to write like Miranda July. Like, I want to write like spilling my guts, and like I want to write my truth and my fears and my crazy stuff that I've never told anybody. Even though in this story, like, there's nothing juicy. Maybe I can read it. Maybe I will just read it and then I will probably end the video because I've been jabbering on for a little while. So yeah, the last time I talked to him was this story. There was a brief period where I had assumed everything was peachy keen and, you know, everything was peachy keen, but we hadn't been in contact. But I assumed that at sometime after this conversation took place, and then a year, there's maybe a gap of a year, in that window, he's gone. You know, whether or not he was talking and had contact with my sister during that time, I don't know. But I do know that had this conversation, there's a window of time, right, where we're like, oh, I haven't heard from dad in a while. So that's why I'm like, you know, sometime in this window, he up and left, you know. My father left us sometime in 2014. The last time I spoke to him was on the telephone shortly before I left the country the year before. I remember being upset because he wasn't going to come to visit. When I think about this conversation, I wonder if I said something to push him away. Maybe in the end, it was I who gave up on him. I questioned who I had become as his son and what he had taught me as my father. We didn't fight over the phone that day, but I felt rejected by him. And it's this rejection that changed my view of him. Was it this conversation that made him disappear from my life forever? Since then, he has appeared on the Maricopa County mugshot database, arrested for disorderly conduct. I can tell from the photograph that biologically this was my father. In the years since I had last seen him, though, his eyes had changed. They turned into dark pits. They were full of sadness. He was even frowning. It was hard to believe that underneath he was my dad, but I realized that I didn't see this man as my dad. My dad died that day, the day of the phone call. I was visiting my hometown that day. I was 182 miles from where I lived at the time. My father lived a few towns over, and as I dialed his number, I pictured him sitting in his trailer in the countryside. I stayed with him there for a few months after I had a surgery, as he stayed with me those first few nights while I was in the hospital. I never asked him to stay with me. I never told him I was going into the hospital for surgery. As I regained consciousness, I realized he had pulled up a chair and laid his head on top of my blankets. Sometimes I would wake up and look over to him sleeping next to the window. As I listened to the phone ring in my ear, I wondered if I wanted him to pick up. Was the effort I put into trying to see him worth it? considering his relationships with our family had all ended poorly. I knew next to nothing about his marriage with my mother. I wondered what exactly caused them to divorce after all these years I still never knew. I know that his history of drug abuse and alcoholism made him angry, emotional, and frightening at times. When I was a child, he woke me in the middle of the night crying with the smell of vodka and cigarettes on his breath. I recalled all the conversations my sister and I had about him. I know now that she had a fear of becoming just like him and developing addictions of her own. A few seconds later, he answered the phone. He was hard to understand. Maybe he needed to clear his throat. As we had our conversation, it was easy to tell that his thoughts were focused on other matters. He may have been rolling a joint for all I know, but I invited him to a meal anyway. Years back, when I was still in middle school, he used to pick me up and take me for a quick meal. And it was these trips to small fast food restaurants that I was nostalgic for that day, but as he made his excuses, I started to wonder why I had even called in the first place. I looked to my family for answers, but their faces offered no suggestions. Maybe he didn't want to see me because of who I was. Or maybe he thought it would be too painful, or maybe he never wanted to see me and was just annoyed by the pointless phone call. Maybe I knew that this conversation would be the last I'd have with him. These are the things I thought about as he continued to elaborate on why he couldn't make it out of the house that day. In the end, all I could do was sigh and ask one final time, why? I paused to listen to his groggy voice for a moment before I hung up. It's so quiet in here. I feel like my face is hot. It's really quiet in here, and my face is hot. I feel really embarrassed right now.